Jack Lambert once said years ago famously, what do I think of quarterbacks? Put a dress on them. Okay, maybe we can't do that. Maybe we should just put flags on them and play flag football as it relates to pass rushing.
What do you think of my contention, and we'll start with you, Cosell, my contention that the NFL is trying too hard to please women?
I think that's a part of it. I wouldn't go that far, but I think it is the outrage mob and the cancel woke culture that they are trying to codify, in my view. Look, when you get into certain jobs, whether it's coal mining, doing construction jobs or 1,000 feet in the air, or playing football, or being a prize fighter, everyone knows what they are getting into. You are not drafted into this. Now, in the National Football League, you are drafted into an organization, but no one is theoretically forcing you to play. Now, maybe your circumstances and your socioeconomic factors force you to play this dangerous game. But I think for a very long time, most young men that take up this endeavor love the game of football. Now, over a course of time, it may turn into a business, which it is, but there's an acceptable amount where you could say, you know what? As Ray Robinson once said after a fatality in one of his fights, and they said, well, this sport is very dangerous and people can get hurt. And Mr. Robinson said as only he could, sir, I'm in the hurt business. There's a reality to it. You can make the game safer. You could cleanse it a little bit. But the truth of the matter is, it's a violent endeavor. And I've even seen it in boxing where nowadays, if you get hit too much in the middle of a round, at the end of the round, instead of getting your 1 minute rest, now you have doctors coming in, calling a timeout, extending the rest period. And here's the problem. You might actually extend a beating. If you give a guy another 30 seconds in between a round, maybe that guy lasts 3 more rounds that he shouldn't. And I've seen this in the National Football League. There came a point about a decade ago, Jason and TJ, they outlawed certain hits. And here's what happened. And you can ask Rob Gronkowski about this. The target area started to lower. Guys started getting their knees taken out. You talk to a lot of players, and it's not popular to say anymore. They tell you they would rather take a blow above the chest than below the thigh. And they only play the game. But, you know, that Tom Brady hit was very interesting. It got me thinking, and I know you and me, Jason, are on the same wavelength when it comes to this. This game has changed so much that you almost have to judge players differently from this modern era to what it was. I go back to Joe Montana, who in my mind still is the greatest quarterback ever, not because of the number of rings or anything else. He played in an era where quarterbacks were still football players. The two most violent hits I think I've ever seen on a quarterback was in the 86 divisional playoffs against the Giants. Jim Burt bounced Joe Montana off the air. It looked like Jazzy Jeff when Uncle Phil would throw him out of the house. Nowadays, Jim Burt would not only get flagged, he'd get suspended, might get arrested for assault. And then the 1990 championship game, Leonard Marshall from the blind side on his third effort just absolutely hammered Montana to a point they could have put a chalk line out on the field of Candlestick Park, and it essentially ended his 49er run. He was out the whole year. And you know what? Neither play was dirty. I'm getting the sense now, guys. Jack Lambert once said years ago famously, what do I think of quarterbacks? Put a dress on them. Okay, maybe we can't do that. Maybe we should just put flags on them and play flag football as it relates to pass rushing.
Trying too hard to please women?
Yes. Now, there is some strategy behind this. Between 2008 and 2018, the youth football participation, age 6 to 18, lost 25% of their workforce, for lack of a better word, right? High school football is below 1 million kids for the first time since 1998. So it is dropping. Now, the question is it dropping because the NFL won't fight back, or is it dropping because of all the lawsuits and the idea of the CTE propaganda, which is what it is, right? Because if you know the background of this CTE nonsense, it comes from one study, commissioned in 2012. They studied like 101 brains, donated from people who were like, I'm pretty sure this guy was crazy. And they said 97% of those guys, turns out they were crazy. And so they say, I bet all football players have CTE. And you're like, well, you didn't study any of the healthy guys, and you didn't study any women's soccer team, and you didn't study any women who never played sports or any local accountants, how do you know everyone doesn't have a level of whatever this is that you're making up? And so a lot of it is propaganda. You've scared these women instead of the NFL saying, this is a violent sport, but this is the safest you can make a violent sport, and we're definitely not cracking until you get us some better information than that garbage. Instead of that, they say, you know what, you're right. This is a terribly violent sport. What we'll do is we'll cover everybody with bubble wrap. We'll make it an unwatchable sport. And we're really sorry. And I'm telling you, 8-year-old TJ would not recognize this game. When I was 8 years old, that was 1998. My favorite player at the time was John Lynch, who wouldn't be in the league today. He's an NFL Hall of Famer that wouldn't have existed. If I turned on today's thing, I'd say, why are they pushing everybody out of bounds? Why are they just pulling people down? What happened to my favorite player whose job it was to break collarbones? That's what made little TJ fall in love with football. I wouldn't recognize it today.